Hey guys, how's it going? So I thought we'd try something a little bit different today. Rather than just sort of diving into a system that I'm using and going into a lot of detail, I just thought it'd be cool to give you guys an overview about how I use Notion to make sure that I get stuff done on a regular basis. Notion's been like a really great tool for me to live a more productive and fulfilling life. So I'm hoping that this provides a little bit of value to you and you can take some inspiration from it to put into your own Notion workflows. So let's have a look. So you'll notice that the way that I categorize things at the moment is sort of on the basis that I'm completing them on. So I have habits, which are sort of more daily things. Then I have weekly stuff. So this is like my weekly planner, my content tracker. Then I have like larger ongoing projects. And then I have big picture goals and also my second brain. The reason that I split it up this way is just what's making sense to me at the moment. I have been quite fluid with how I generally set up my dashboard. To me, it's not that important, the exact structure that I have here, as long as these like individual pages and systems work really well within themselves. So yeah, I generally just keep this quite minimal. I have a nice photo of some trees. I don't want to be distracted by this. It just needs to be somewhere where I can come and I can easily access whatever part of my Notion system that I want to get to at that point in time. Probably the best place for us to start is actually with the goals and reviews. So if we come in here, I have like a life purpose thing, which I won't massively go into. We can just sort of maybe quickly breeze through that. But this is just like something that I complete on like a yearly basis, where I just sort of try and align everything in my life with what I'm trying to get out of that particular year. But yeah, this is sort of something that maybe is for another day. One thing that we can have a look at in a bit more detail is OKRs. So if you're not familiar, OKRs are just a way for you to set big objectives and then from those big objectives set smaller key results, which are going to allow you to make sure that you're making progress towards your goals on a regular basis. So one of the easiest things that we can look at here is this, which is my sort of YouTube objective. The main objective is that I want to provide value to you guys and also hopefully gather some real fans in the process. And some of the key results that I'm trying to work towards to achieve that are firstly having YouTube subscribers. So I want to get 500 by the end of winter 2020. Work on some collaborations, send out newsletters, and also just generally in that content sphere, work on my blog. And then how this table is set up is I have an initial value, so this is where I was at when I set the OKR, and then a target value, which is where I'm trying to get to, and then obviously the current value, which is where I'm at the moment. So when I'm making this video, it was 255 subscribers. Hopefully it's going to be a bit more than that by the time this goes out. But then what I have is a progress sort of tracker, which then tells me based off of the current value and the initial value onto the target value that I'm going for, what sort of progress am I through that. And this is just helpful for me to look at on a weekly basis to see, right, okay, like where am I sort of maybe falling behind, where do I need to devote a bit more time to. You can see here on the collaborations front, I'm a lot further behind than I am with my content itself. So that's probably something I'm going to want to focus on in the weekly plan. And then I also have other objectives. This is like more of a personal one around just sort of having friends, which is pretty difficult to keep going in the lockdown at the moment. So I'm just trying to do things like, making calls to them and doing nice things for my girlfriend, that kind of thing. And then like another project that I'm working on and a few other things. So yeah, this is just really the way that I put my vision down. So my vision is, I want to lead teams creating products that simplify lives, break that down into objectives, and then break that down further into these sort of key results, which I look at on a weekly basis. So linked to this is also my weekly planner, which we can look at here. And what you can see here is I'm just breaking stuff down on a day-by-day basis. And how I usually approach this is every week, usually on a Sunday, I sit down and I think, right, okay, what do I need to get done this week that would make it like the ideal week? This week's been a bit more chilled, but generally speaking, I'm trying to do like one thing regarding YouTube, one thing regarding my other projects every day, and also like putting in the gym in there as well. You can also see that each of these cards is actually linked to one of my OKRs. So this is like really helpful because I can come in here and every time I create something, I just go in and see, what the OKR is. So let's just try create an example for that so you can see how it might work. So let's say that I want to deliver on that, like still having friends basically through lockdown. I might say call Will, who's a mate of mine, and then I'll just link that to an OKR, put in the make 12 phone calls to friends, and then I can easily then see, after I've created this, what are the main ways that I'm delivering on my objectives and where am I perhaps missing out. So, for this week, clearly I was focused a bit more on the YouTube side of things, which means maybe some of my other objectives were perhaps slipping. So it's really useful for me to see that information. And yeah, that's sort of really how the weekly planner works. If I'm not going to do something that day, it's not a massive problem. I'll just move it, from one day to the next. And yeah, that's sort of how that whole thing works. One other thing that we could probably look at in my dashboard is something that I do on a daily basis, which is my 5-minute journal. So, we've got the overarching objectives, which I set every quarter. We've got the weekly plan to keep me on track. So these habits are just things that I'm trying to do every day to just sort of keep everything ticking over. So what we can see here is I have the journal set out as a calendar view. Now I've actually got a whole video on how I do journaling, and it's quite comprehensive, so check that out if you're interested. But generally what I do is every day I create a new page, and then within that page I then use this template. So I'll enter the template and say it's tomorrow, which is going to be the 8th of November. The first thing that I'm going to be greeted with is this monstrosity here. I call it a monstrosity just because it's a little bit depressing sometimes to look at. But what we have is a progress bar that says, the year that I'm going through, how much way through the year I am, how much way through the month I am, and how much of the way through the day I am. And most depressing of all, how much through my life am I? So here, this is showing, I'm 33% through my life. I obviously put the put my age at 80, 85, whatever it was. That is very depressing to see that, but it's important to see because it just focuses me every day to know you only have a finite time on this planet, and go and do what you want to do because soon you are going to be dead. Right, then we have the current mental model that I'm working on, which at the moment is first principles thinking, and this is something I maybe change every quarter or something like that. And then we have a few different things that I fill out. So I have things that I'm grateful for, what would make today great, my life purpose, which is, if you remember from the OKRs, was leading teams to simplify lives. So I'll just write that out 3 times. And then the focus of the day. The focus of the day is really important because this is just one thing that I will get done that day, regardless. If I have to, go to bed at 4 in the morning, it doesn't matter. I always have to do the focus of the day because I just feel like everyone needs to do one thing a day that contributes towards, their progress in some way. Then in the afternoon, this is where things get a bit more reflective. So AM is getting myself hyped up for the day, trying to make sure what am I going to do. PM is more reflective, I would say. So what I'm doing here is saying, firstly, how did I use that mental model? So reflecting on how I use first principles thinking to try and change my mental models and how I work in that way. And then I'll ask, what are some amazing things that happened today? This is because trying to build gratitude and just trying to be satisfied with what I have rather than constantly chasing the next thing. And then working on habits that I'm trying to build. I just seen here that I've accidentally left in a couple that I probably should have left out, not getting annoyed at my girlfriend. That's that's a habit that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. It's something that I'm always trying to check off. And then I also have, where did I go wrong today? How can I improve? So this is where you get into that reflective mode and you think to yourself, okay, mate, come on, what have you done today? How could you have been better? Sometimes it's fine, but sometimes it gets a bit tough when you have to give yourself a stern telling off. But yeah, that's how I'm using my journal on a daily basis. And the good thing about viewing it in this calendar view is it just builds up that chain. So, if I've got here, whatever this is, 7 days in a row, it's going to mean that I'm unlikely to skip the next day because I don't want to break that chain. And this is something that I think Matt Devella did a whole video on when he's got this this calendar that he sets up and he crosses out. I think it's a Jerry Seinfeld thing. But yeah, really great way to use a journal. Really happy that I'm using Notion for it, because journaling's always been a habit that I've just found really hard to keep to and to stick to. So this has just made it a lot easier for me. So we've got the journal. We also have a couple of other things in here, probably not that suitable for me to go into. Actually, don't want to share my dreams with a load of people on YouTube. But yeah, it's just an interesting way to it's basically the same as a journal, but it's just a diary for dreams. And then we can also look, I suppose, at my content tracker. So this sort of feeds into my weekly planner in a way. If we look here, you can see that I have a board view, and this is just all of the different ideas that I have for content that I want to make. Usually, it's YouTube videos or blog posts, and then I have different stages in the board for different stages of the journey of that piece of content. So it goes from an idea, then I'll script it, then I'll create a blog post, film it, edit it, review it, schedule it, and then it's a long process, but it's really necessary to have everything in here. And it also means that I can keep on top of stuff that I'm batching, because at the moment I'm trying to do like 3 videos in a row, and then edit 3 videos in a row, and then upload 3 videos in a row, just because it's a much more efficient process. So in each of these cards, what we also have, and I think this is a combination of Thomas Franks and Ali Abdaal's content tracking system, but what we have is a way that I can sort of have a template. So the template looks like this. I have a list of B-roll. This is only relevant in the editing stage, because this is where I just add all of the B-roll that I might want to put into. But we also have in here a script, and what I'm trying to do here is just make sure that when I'm writing my script, I'm doing it in a way that's going to be engaging for the viewer. So the first thing that I'm doing is just anchoring myself to what is the purpose of this video. And often, I'll write out, who's the character, what do they want, why can't they get what they want. And then 4 and 7, we have basically like a carrot and a stick approach. So first we answer what are the stakes of them not watching this video. So what have they potentially got to miss out on, or what would go wrong in their lives if they didn't take this action? And I guess that's like the stick. And then we also have the how are they transformed by this experience. This is the positive, the opportunity that we're giving the viewer by watching this piece of content. And just outlaying this, I think, is really, really important, to just make sure that when you're writing the script, you're really thinking about the customer, and you're really thinking about how are you going to add value to their experience. Then we also have a sort of outline about how I'm going to write the video themselves. So we have this is the Ali Abdaal model, the hive, the hook, intro, value, and then the call to action. So yeah, the hook is just how am I going to grab the viewer's attention. Obviously the intro is just, hi, my name's Tom, welcome to my channel. And then the value is what value I'm actually giving the listener. And then finally, just at the end, which is sort of linking them to a custom playlist. Usually I'll write this out word for word. Doesn't mean I'm going to speak it in word for word, but it just helps me to put my thoughts down. But often I'll also just put bullet points if it's something I feel that I can just riff on. So here, final thoughts for this particular video. I've just put like a few bullet points that I'm just going to talk about at the end that I don't feel that I need a script for. So yeah, that's sort of generally how my content planner looks. Also, what's really great about this is obviously you can just sort of filter it by the calendar view, which is going to show you when everything is designed to be released. I can also put newsletters in here as well, and blog posts, and I sometimes do that, but I actually have a different system for blog posts purely because I work on it with a team, which isn't necessarily included in here. And the reason I don't include my newsletter in this plan is more because with my newsletter, to be honest, I just sit down and I just start writing. I don't really have like a real process for it. And I think that's fine. Like sometimes you just need to realize, when do you need a process? When don't you need a process? Not everything needs a process. And for me, my my newsletter is one of the things that doesn't need a process. But my YouTube videos absolutely do, because otherwise I'll be in a world of mess with just all the different stages and all the different things that I need to do. Okay, what else can we look at here that will be interesting to you? I think this might be interesting actually, looking at music. It's something that people, I feel like they just think, Music, someone will recommend me some music and then I'll listen to it and that will be fine. And in my case, that's not the experience that I have. I often find that if I'm not sort of constantly being really active about discovering new music and making a process out of listening to things, that it'll just get left by the wayside. So that's why I have this system here, which I very nerdily call the music discovery pipeline. And what I do here is just put in different music that's been recommended to me, and then I drag it through the different stages. So I'll put it to listen, and then listening, and then listen once it's done. And I just find this is a really good way for me to make sure that if someone does recommend me music, I am actually going to listen to it. And then we can actually switch the view here from the music discovery pipeline to the digital record collection. This is really, really great because it just gives me an overview of all the music that I've listened to. I've got this sort of beautiful artwork in here, which is the album artwork. So it's almost like having a physical record collection. And then what I'll do is give everything a rating. So I can say, right, okay, if I'm in the mood for like hip hop music, okay, I obviously really like the Saturation album by Brockhampton. Maybe I should give that a listen to again. It's a bit bare at the moment because I've only just started doing this, but I'm hoping that in like 5 or 10 years time, this is going to become a really sort of robust database of all the music that I love, because I think it's just easy to forget about like really great albums that you might like. Like sometimes I'll hear a song that I used to love like 10 years ago. Like recently I've been getting back into the Killers again, and it's just like I just completely forgot that they were a band that I really, really liked, and I know like all the words to every song. So it's just really great for me to be able to sort of see these albums like this. One other thing which is really powerful about having this digital record collection, which is perhaps even better than a physical one in some way, is I can capture lyrics that really stand out to me. So if you haven't checked out this album, by the way, God, like, where have you been? It's just such an incredible album by Frank Ocean, one of my favourites. And in here, I can actually just put in lyrics that really sort of captured my attention. So this one here is, well, they're both actually from a song on the album called Siegfried, which is just so poetic and just such an incredible song. And I just thought it'd be a shame to not like have that documented somewhere, that this is just a really great verse that really resonated with me at a certain point in time. So just something interesting there that I put in, and then I'll then categorize this into my second brain, which we're going to discuss in a little bit. So yeah, that's generally like how I listen to music using Notion, and again a whole video on this that goes into more detail about how I use the system. Another thing that we can look at here that I look at on a weekly basis is my critique. Now, this is really useful to help create a feedback loop for whatever work it is you're doing. I personally tend to use this for, illustrations, videos, blog posts, that kind of thing. But feasibly, you could use it for any piece of art or creative endeavor or anything at work that you might have. Creating a feedback loop is just so important that when you're releasing something, you're getting like valuable information about how that could be better, and this really comes into its own when you're not getting feedback from other people, because when I first started my YouTube channel, I obviously wasn't getting any comments or any feedback, so I didn't really know if what I was producing was good or not. So the only thing that I could do really was to watch it myself and then critique it myself. So let's have a quick look at the template that I use to go through this critique, and hopefully you'll sort of be able to see why it's so powerful. So the first question I always ask myself, or the first quote that I always look at, is this one by Daniel Kahneman. And it's, by the way, if you don't know Daniel Kahneman, he's this behavioural psychologist who's wrote a ton of great books. Thinking Fast and Slow is his most famous. And his quote here is, don't ask why people behave in a certain way, ask them why they don't behave in the way that you would like. And this is just such a powerful context switch, because I think it's so tempting when we think about someone who's sort of got bad behaviours, maybe someone who's like overweight and they're eating a load of junk food and they're not exercising, to think like, why are they doing that? Why are they eating bad food? Why are they not exercising? Just flipping that and asking them, why are they not exercising? Instead, asking them why are they not eating healthily? this is just a different way of looking at things, and I just think it's incredibly powerful and helps you get to the root cause of what the issues actually are. Because if you're asking, why they're not doing something, then you're really getting to the behavioural issues that are driving them. Maybe they're not exercising because they don't know how, they don't have the education, maybe they feel that they don't have the time, or they're really low energy all the time. These are just really sort of interesting points that can come up when you think about things in this different way. And then I have a few other different questions that I ask myself, which I guess we can actually just take a live look at for how I did it for a recent video that I did on Ender's Game. Again, an incredible book. Check it out if you've got the time and you want to learn about leadership and mastery. It really is a cool book. So the first question I asked myself is, what's not good about this piece of work? And you can see here I've got like a list of maybe 10 different things that are coming across that after watching the video I've thought that was quite weak. So the first one here that stands out is, I needed more enthusiasm for a particular video and I was coming across a bit low energy. I find that when I'm talking to a friend in a pub or when I'm just generally communicating with somebody, I can be quite energetic, but for some reason when I come in front of the camera, I'm just not that energetic person, and it feel like it does come across in my videos. I think that's fine in a way, like everyone has their own style and there's a lot of great YouTubers out there who aren't really high energy, but I just feel like it wasn't really like authentically me, so it's just a point that I raised. And then there's a load of other things here, for example, the camera angle being all wrong, the voice sounding a bit formal, that I'm saying too much. I don't know that's exactly what that means. So saying and too much, and that my EQ was wrong, the voice was too quiet, etc, etc. Then what I'll do is just pick out one thing that I feel that I really need to do to improve on that piece of work. And for this, I picked out improving on the energy and tone. The reason I think it's really important to pick out one thing rather than trying to focus on like 10 or 15 different things is because if you focus on 10, you're probably not going to end up doing any of them. Whereas if you focus on one, at least you've got a good chance of carrying that into the next video as a focus, improving on it, and then you're going to be in a much better position if you just keep doing that time and time again. And then I asked myself this question: why am I not already taking the steps to address that issue? In other words, why am I not here already speaking in an energetic tone? And this goes back to this quote from Daniel Kahneman about, don't ask them, why they're behaving in a certain way, ask them why they're not behaving in the way that you would like. And here I'm sort of putting, I don't feel confident enough in front of the camera. I feel if I fully express myself, I'm going to be put down. Yeah, okay, we're getting a bit deep here. And maybe, I fear like not winning at YouTube. So, there's this idea that if you don't put yourself fully out there, then you're always going to have an excuse about why you didn't succeed. And it's just like some sort of trick that the ego plays on us to keep us from being our like true authentic selves. So yeah, this is just something interesting to write down and to make me try and have a bit of self-awareness about why I'm not sort of taking the steps required to do a certain thing. And then I ask here, what steps am I going to do to address that issue? So here I've put, I want to get into a natural mood before filming. So maybe I'm going to do something silly, just like have a little dance around the flat, or maybe sing in the shower, something like that. And finally, how am I going to know if I've succeeded? And for this, it's quite simple. It's that I'm going to be able to judge my next video as higher energy. So what I'm going to do is take this lesson, pull it into the next video, and then see if I've met the requirements of that lesson. So one other thing that we can look at is my travel plan. Unfortunately, this one here in Montenegro was put to bed by coronavirus. We couldn't go on this trip, which is really, really annoying. But yeah, what we have here is a board view with different sort of stages for each day of the week. And this is just really great because it means that I can have like big activities and then I can move them sort of to and from different days depending on how my schedule allows when I get there. I think there's nothing worse than having like a really rigid holiday plan that you can't move. So the idea here is that we're encouraging some inflexibility by putting in the big plans, but then being able to move them around, if we so need to. Also got the Indify weather widget here, which is just a great way to sort of get excited about the holiday if the weather's good. Obviously, if it says it's raining every day, maybe hide that before you share it with your mates. But yeah, that's sort of the general premise of it. We can actually look into each of these cards and you can see I put an image in here, which means that it's going to show out on the front. And you can also do some clever stuff, like for example, for the different drives, because this was planned to be a like road trip, I've just put in a Google Maps embed on how long it's going to take from which place to the next. The reason I did this was not because on the day I'm going to use this to get to the place. Obviously, you're just going to use your phone and open up Google Maps. It's more for the planning to see, right, okay, at each stage, how long is this going to take? Because this is 1 hour and 3/4. That's perfectly, 1.5, perfectly manageable, like a really nice drive. But if I did this and saw that it was actually an 8-hour drive, probably I'm going to reconsider that plan and change it slightly and maybe put like another destination halfway in between. So yeah, and then I also have the cost here. I mean, for a drive, it's not really relevant, but for some of the other activities, it is. And then you can actually flick here to the table view, which is going to give you all of the different activities and their costs, so you can actually see what the trip's going to cost. And the really great thing about this is you can sort of play around with what you actually want to do on the holiday. So, for example, say this monastery turned out to be like a £30 entry fee. I could put that in and see, right, okay, it's going to take me up to £630. In the grand scheme of things, like, how do I feel about that? Maybe I really want to go to this monastery, but I want to keep this under £600. So maybe I'll say, okay, this morning sea kayak, maybe it's not worth £50. If I take this out, it's going to take me down to 580. Yeah, okay, maybe that's a better idea. And this just sort of is another way for you to really easily see like budgets and just get an idea about what the best trip for you looks like. So yeah, like a really, really, really positive thing that's come from me using Notion is being able to plan my holidays better. Okay, I think the final thing that we can look at in here is sort of the books and the second brain. Now, this is something that I'm actually looking to bring together a little bit more because it's a little bit separated, and you'll see what I mean. Like, I've got sort of like engineering stuff in here. I've got books. I've got other things. If we come into books themselves, what you can actually see is that I've got all of the different books that I've read on my Kindle on this account, and books that I'm looking to read just in this board view. And this is actually set up with the Readwise integration. If you haven't heard of Readwise, I would highly recommend checking these guys out. They save you a ton of time when it comes to getting notes from your Kindle into Notion. Before this, man, the process was so horrible. I used to export notes from my Kindle into Google Sheets. I'll then go into Google Sheets and have to delete certain rows, delete certain passages to make it look nice. Then I would copy from Google Sheets into Notion and then format it again. And then I would then have to obviously put in the name of the book and everything because it wasn't done automatically. What Readwise allows is when you have a book, it automatically puts in the art, which is just it's not necessary, but it's really nice to have. It puts in the author, the name, the URL of that book, and all of these different things, including the number of highlights. And most importantly, of course, all of the different quotes that you've highlighted come in automatically. And this is really cool because it also says the location, which means I can click on that and it's actually going to open up my Kindle app and take me to where that quote was. So if I ever wanted to see, okay, what was the context for this quote, I can easily see that directly from Notion. It's just such a powerful feature. I think it's like £6 a month maybe, but in the time that you're going to save, it is 100% worth it. I would highly recommend it. This board view is something that doesn't come with the Readwise app, so I added that myself. Now, the one problem with all of this information is yeah, it's cool. I can see all of these different quotes, but realistically, how valuable is it for me? To know all of this, how am I going to access this in the future? And this was a problem that I was struggling with for a while, and I was trying to think about the best way to make this knowledge accessible and usable. And I came across a system by Ryan Holiday that he uses. It's like a note card system that he manually writes out really powerful quotes on a note card and then categorizes them. So I decided to replicate that using Notion, and I've just recently created this second brain. So what we have here is first a master list of all of the quotes that I find to be really, really powerful. And what I do is I just copy and paste from the Readwise integration, from the books, directly into this table. It's a long process. I've done a whole other video on this that I go into more detail. You should check that out. But it's really valuable. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I found this quote here that says the ultimate joy of being an entrepreneur is creating something that people find valuable, particularly if it's something that hasn't existed before. I just found this really a way to look at things that was a really nice thing to look at, because often you can get focused on stats and numbers and money and things like that. But it was just really great for me to see, okay, this is a cool quote. I'm going to make a little comment on this. Like, people are finding value on my YouTube. Like, that is enough, even though I don't have many subscribers. Even though I'd like it to be bigger, check yourself and realize that you're doing okay. And then what I'll do with each of these quotes is tag them under a certain category. So I have a list of categories here. I'm trying to keep this to below 50 to make it accessible. But yeah, there's a load of things ranging from obviously love to productivity to truth to growth to beauty, every different category that you could, or a lot of different categories that you could imagine. And then I also have a relational database set up which links it to the book in the sort of library table itself, which is the one we just looked at with Readwise. So once I've added all of these into the master list, and I'm still working through this, I've only done about 10 books, I've got about 80 more to do, but I just do a few every day. We then have the note cards themselves. So here I can just filter by a certain category. So yeah, we have this at the moment filtered by childhood. So you can just see in here I've got 3 different books with 4 different quotes. And it's just really incredible that I've got all of this really powerful information right at my fingertips. So you can see here from The Prophet, which is a book book of poems that I recently read. I've got this quote that says, "You may give them your love, but not your thoughts." And I just thought this was really powerful when I read it, because so often you see parents trying to tell children how to think and trying to encourage them to think in a certain way, and maybe there's some benefit in encouraging to have morals and all of that, but really what we need to be doing is showing them love and then hoping that the right thoughts are going to manifest through seeing your actions and just seeing your love unconditionally. So I just obviously put that quote in, and then I put never tell your kids what to think, never tell anyone what to think. It's just I just thought it was a great quote. And then I've obviously got this on different books as well, and obviously I can just filter this by any category. And the beauty of this is that I can then, if ever I'm writing a blog post or doing a YouTube video, feasibly any of these different quotes could be turned into a Twitter thread, a YouTube video, whatever it might be. I've always got all this information accessible at my fingertips. I also have a categories list, which just shows me each of the categories that I've got and the quotes that lie within them. So again, I can either just sort of filter through this if I'm bored, or more likely what I'm going to do is, if I'm writing my newsletter, for example, and I wanted to do it, I'm writing about productivity a lot at the moment, so I'll just go to P for productivity, and then I'm going to see here a load of different quotes that I've got associated with productivity. So here I've got, for to be idle is to become a stranger into the seasons, and to step out of life's procession that marches in majesty and proud towards submission of the infinite. That in itself could easily be a newsletter. You could easily write a newsletter about how, we should be, being productive. We've got a need to work, and ultimately that is just natural human nature or something like this. And I wouldn't necessarily be able to have that insight without seeing that in front of me. So it's just this sort of unlimited amount of creativity and knowledge that's coming through and helping me to inform, my writing and whatever when I'm making content. So I think that's pretty much it for my second brain. Again, I've got a whole other video out on this, which should be out before this video, I'm hoping. And yeah, one thing that I'm struggling with the second brain is thinking about books, articles, blog posts. These are quite easy to integrate. But what about, for example, technical things? I've got a lot of technical engineering code and business ideas and product ideas. How am I integrating that into my second brain? So if you've got any ideas on how to do that, that would be great, because one thing I'm trying to do with this is make sure that it's a real hub of wisdom, not just a load of facts. So I'm thinking of maybe having 2 brains, one for just knowledge, pure facts, and one for wisdom, I suppose. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, because that's something that I'm struggling with at the moment. And I think that's pretty much it, to be honest. That's really an overview of my of how I've got everything set up. One thing that I am looking at doing is integrating these a bit better, because at the moment they're all quite individual. Obviously they will feed into each other. But for example, my weekly planner and my content planner, these could easily integrate a bit better together. Maybe I would, for example, create a piece of content that I want to do in the content tracker, and then it would automatically populate tasks into my weekly plan. That would be something that would be really cool to do, and I've seen it done. I know that Danny Hatch has got a video on it, and he actually raised to me when I did my live stream with him that, you know, all of this was quite separate, and did I want to bring them together? Yeah, so that's just something that I'm thinking about doing. The thing is, for me, this is working quite well, and I think this is always a thing with Notion. It's like, how far do you go? I could spend hours, you know, making this better, and, you know, making it prettier, and making it, you know, synchronize better. But ultimately, it's like, what are your aims? What are your goals? And for me, as long as I can, you know, have a source of information to make great videos and to be able to keep my habits going, that's enough for me for Notion. And I think you just need to decide, like, what's enough for you, because it's tempting to watch these kinds of videos and think, oh yeah, like, I'll implement that. That sounds like a really good idea. And, you know, ultimately that can actually be a mistake, because you end up doing stuff and solving problems that you don't actually have. So yeah, thanks a lot for sticking around. I hope you found some value and inspiration in that. If you did, please give this video a like, subscribe, and yeah, check out my other videos where I dive into all of these topics in a little bit more detail. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the rest of your day.